Hey everyone, welcome back to Genai's World News. We're kicking things off today with a massive move in global energy markets. According to the Financial Times, Brent crude oil has tumbled more than 6% after the United States and Iran agreed to pause their military strikes in and around the Strait of Hormuz. Now, to put that in context, for the past 2 weeks, escalating violence in one of the world's most critical oil shipping lanes had pushed crude prices past $100 a barrel. Traders were on edge. Supply fears were running hot. But now, with both sides stepping back from the brink, at least temporarily, that fear premium is evaporating fast. The Strait of Hormuz is absolutely critical. Roughly a fifth of the world's oil supply passes through it every single day. So any conflict there sends shockwaves through energy markets worldwide. Whether this pause holds, and what it means for longer-term oil prices, is something every government, airline, and household budget is watching very closely right now. Staying in markets, but shifting to Asia, this story is absolutely wild. The Financial Times is reporting that Chinese semiconductor company CXMT has exploded more than 500% on its first day of trading, making it China's most valuable publicly listed company on the mainland. And on top of that, this is the biggest IPO in mainland China since all the way back in 2010. That's a staggering debut by any measure. Now, CXMT operates in the memory chip space, a sector that has become geopolitically supercharged as China races to develop homegrown semiconductor capabilities amid ongoing U.S. export restrictions. Investors clearly believe this company sits right at the center of Beijing's push for tech self-sufficiency. A 500% first-day gain is the kind of number that makes headlines globally and signals just how hungry investors are for Chinese chip exposure. This is a story we'll be watching very closely as the global semiconductor rivalry between Washington and Beijing continues to intensify. Now to one of the most significant military developments on the Korean peninsula in years. The Financial Times reports that both South Korea and North Korea are actively racing to develop nuclear-powered submarines. And this is a competition that carries enormous strategic implications for the entire Indo-Pacific region. For Seoul, this is a long-awaited opportunity. South Korea has been eyeing nuclear-powered submarine technology for years, and according to the FT, they got a crucial nod of approval from former U.S. President Donald Trump last year, opening the door for deeper cooperation. Nuclear-powered subs are a game-changer. They can stay submerged for vastly longer periods than conventional diesel submarines, dramatically increasing their range and stealth capability. Pyongyang, meanwhile, has been pursuing its own submarine program as part of its broader military expansion. The fact that both Koreas are now in a submarine arms race, layered on top of an already tense nuclear standoff, adds yet another dangerous dimension to one of the world's most volatile flashpoints. Analysts say the race underscores just how rapidly the military balance in the region is shifting. Turning to Europe now, BBC News is reporting that the UK Prime Minister has pledged Britain's continued support for Ukraine, just ahead of a visit from Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. And here's the notable detail. This will be the very first international visit Andy Burnham has received since taking office as Prime Minister. The fact that Zelensky is that first guest sends a clear diplomatic signal about where London's foreign policy priorities lie. The UK has been one of Ukraine's most steadfast backers since the start of the conflict, and this visit is expected to reinforce that commitment, likely covering military aid, financial support, and Ukraine's long-term path toward European integration. With the war now stretching well into its fourth year, and with international attention at risk of wavering, high-profile visits like this one carry real symbolic weight, both for Kyiv and for Ukraine's morale on the ground. This next story is an urgent humanitarian situation unfolding right now in southwestern Europe. The Financial Times reports that violent wildfires burning near both French and Spanish cities have forced the evacuation of approximately 335,000 people. That is an extraordinary number. Spain's minister has described the blazes as, quote, the most aggressive the country has ever suffered. And given Spain's history with wildfires, that is an alarming statement. The fires are tearing through dry vegetation in conditions that firefighters describe as extremely difficult to control. Thousands of emergency workers are battling the flames, and aerial firefighting assets have been deployed across both countries. Entire towns and villages have been told to leave immediately, with evacuation routes clogged and some residents losing their homes entirely. The fires serve as yet another stark reminder of how climate-driven extreme heat is amplifying wildfire risk across the Mediterranean basin, turning summer into a season of crisis for millions of Europeans who live in fire-prone regions. Now, from a diplomatic firestorm to a literally inflammatory speech, BBC News reports that Argentine President Javier Milei traveled to Brazil and, at a political rally there, openly called Brazilian President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva both a thief and a convict. Milei made the remarks while attending an event to launch the presidential campaign of right-wing candidate Flavio Bolsonaro. This is the kind of direct, personal attack on a sitting foreign head of state that almost never happens in traditional diplomatic settings, and it's sure to torch what's left of the relationship between Buenos Aires and Brasilia. Lula and Milei have clashed repeatedly since Milei took office, with the two leaders representing starkly opposite ends of the political spectrum. Brazil is Argentina's largest trading partner and a critical neighbor in South America's economic architecture, so the deterioration of this relationship has real consequences beyond just the political theater. Expect a sharp reaction from Brasilia in the coming days. Here's a story that speaks to the future of technology policy globally. The Financial Times reports that artificial intelligence companies are now spending record amounts of money lobbying the U.S. federal government in Washington. We're talking about major names: OpenAI, Anthropic, Google, and Microsoft, all ramping up their lobbying budgets significantly. And the reason is simple. Washington is getting increasingly serious about regulating AI, and these companies want to shape the rules before the rules shape them. The battle over federal AI policy, covering everything from data privacy and safety standards to export controls and liability, is intensifying fast. The fact that these companies are pouring unprecedented sums into lobbying reflects just how much they have at stake. Government contracts, regulatory frameworks, and international competitiveness all hang in the balance. Whatever rules come out of Washington won't just affect American users. They'll set a precedent that governments around the world will look to as they draft their own AI legislation. This is a power struggle happening right now, largely behind closed doors, that will affect all of us. And finally, a significant shakeup in Southeast Asian finance. The Financial Times reports that Perry Warjio, the governor of Indonesia's central bank, has resigned from his post. Warjio had been facing mounting pressure over the weakening of the Indonesian Rupiah, which has struggled against a strong U.S. dollar environment that has hammered currencies across emerging markets. A central bank governor's resignation is always a major event. It raises immediate questions about policy continuity, monetary credibility, and investor confidence. Indonesia is Southeast Asia's largest economy, and stability at Bank Indonesia is crucial for everything from inflation management to foreign investment flows. Markets will be watching very closely to see who is appointed as successor and what signals that appointment sends about the direction of Indonesian monetary policy going forward. For a country that has weathered multiple currency crises in its history, leadership transitions at the central bank are never taken lightly. That's going to do it for today's edition of Genai's World News. An enormous amount happening across the globe, from crashing oil prices to record lobbying wars to wildfire emergencies. If you found today's coverage useful, please hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with someone who needs to stay informed. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay curious, stay global.